Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome to the show. We are happy to have Penelope Camarata joining us here once again, our therapeutic life coach, and she has a nonprofit as well, Internal Consciousness. We're going to go and talk to her now about the work she's doing. Welcome back. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well, sweetheart. Thanks so much. We're talking a lot about the work that you do to help so many people. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about the company specifically and what it is to be a mental health and wellness therapeutic life coach?
Okay. Basically, I help first responders, any first responder, veteran, frontline worker. And what I do is it's a therapeutic trauma life coach. So I help them actually work through the direct traumas that they have, but not in a first person perspective, but as like a third person perspective.
Got it. Well, how do we find you? Could you share the website?
My website is http://internal-consciousness.ueniweb.com. I'm also on a lot of Facebook or social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok. You name it, I'm pretty much on it for that.
Beautiful. Well, at Internal Consciousness, you say your goals provide emotional, mental, physical, spiritual support. You have courses, workshops, programs, so on and so forth. But it's always good to, if you don't mind, establish a little bit about what brought you here. Could you share a little bit of your background and, how, I know you had some growing up, you said your mother was diabetic, right? So you had she had some health issues that you helped her with. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. I can hear
Okay,
you a lot
good.
better now.
I saw you putting on earphones. I'm like, no.
No, we're good. Yeah, I'm a 7-year veteran of EMS and dispatching. A friend of mine who was a Philly police officer took his own life, which kind of put me down that downward spiral, what they call Dante's Ninth Gate, which, if you look it up, it's pretty much the last level before you take your life. It's where you just spiral down, and it's actually a biblical thing from the Bible. So it's pretty significant. It's not talked about a lot because people don't understand the significance of it, because there's so many different levels that when you hit rock bottom, that's it, you're done. You've had your limit. And I was pretty close to that. And when I tried reaching out for help, there wasn't anything for first responders. Therapists said that they could help anybody, and including first responders, but they had no first responder background. So that was a challenge, because we have a different mindset. We think differently, we act differently, we react differently. So, and we process things differently. So if someone that's trying to help us doesn't understand our background, or familiar with it, or have worked it themselves, they're kind of out in left field as to how to really help us. And a lot of times I'm finding that medicating someone with these kind of issues is not the answer. It actually makes it worse.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So clearly you're empathetic and always wanted to help people. This is what inspired you?
It is. I watched it growing up, how first responders, they're the first ones in when everybody goes the other way. And it's not only the training, but it's the empathy that goes with it that even gets them into that career line, as to even making that career choice. You don't see a lot of people doing it for the pay.
Aw. Well, thanks for sharing. Now, what details in particular did you want to cover for us today, Penelope?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because the holidays are approaching. And the holidays for first responders is a very, very tough topic. Um, this is the time of the year where the weather turns bad in a lot of the states. So we get more accidents, we get more travelers on the roads. Um, Granted, there's more families getting together, and a lot of times their own families are getting together while they're at work. They're working double shifts. They're working special events. They're putting in a lot more overtime. And even though that they want to do all that, they want to be a part of serving their community, they're also being left out of a lot of holidays for family connections. And they're seeing a lot of family tragedies when tragedies do happen. Faulty Christmas tree lights, turkeys that are being deep fried and should never have been invented, roadside accidents with holiday travelers and bad weather, trying to get from one place to another. Just a lot of things that escalate during the holidays. We see an increase in accidents, fatalities, and we get our own stressors of not being with our own families at that time when everybody else is gathering with theirs.
Got it. And can we go over a little bit specifically of how you work with someone? And by the way, what state are you in and what states are you able to work?
I'm actually international. I can work with anybody that at least knows the English language. Unfortunately, I am not fluent in any foreign language, but nowadays we have translators, which is great. And being in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I can work with anybody remotely. I do a lot of video chats with people, a lot of phone calls. Um, a lot of times I prefer that over the actual in-person sessions because it gives them the safety and security that they can be somewhat anonymous. They don't have to have their video up when they talk to me on a video chat. They don't have to see my face when they call me on the phone. They can have that security that someone is listening on the other end,
Mhm.
but they don't have to reveal
If
themselves
you have
completely and
unfiled
make
taxes
them
or are in debt to
um,
the IRS, this is important news.
make them feel like they're being exposed in any way.
Got it. Well, also, so if we want to reach out to you, do Zoom work, phone calls, obviously internationally. And just again, remind us of the website and phone number, how we can get you.
Sure. My phone number is 215-618-5446. My website is http://internal-consciousness.ueniweb.com. And I'm also available by email at emsfitness323@gmail.com. Those contact information are also linked to my social media pages as well.
Perfect. And did you want to talk about some of the programs you offer or even the book that you co-wrote?
Oh, yes. The book, I actually got a copy. I actually got to edit my chapter. We're now in the editing phase of the book before we get to the publishing part. And I knew we were going to talk about that. So the book is called Healing. What is it? Oh, and wrong one. I'm going to pull it up on my screen because it's a pretty long title for a book, but there's about 25 authors that are co-authoring this one book for other life coaches, which has been a lot of fun. And we each get to do case study, but still keep that anonymity there. We we get to share with other life coaches what works for us because everything is so every technique is different, and every coach is different, every client is different, and it's you know, and I can't even find it now.
That's okay.
This is but it's healing for life coaches, and it's with Eric Severson, is the main author of that. And that is supposed to be, tentative date is released next month through Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So that is going to be fun. I'm excited for that.
One more time, what's the title? How do we?
I'm actually going to try to pull it up.
Yeah. If not, I could search for it too.
I had to do an edit. Here we go. We'll just go through my emails. It's much
That's okay.
faster
We can
that
find
way.
it at some point during the show, not a problem. But I know you really focus
Yeah,
on those, with PTSD, those who have served as veterans, and what better way to talk about it now
absolutely.
than we have Veterans Day coming up this week, and how so many are
Absolutely.
impacted. You say no one fights alone, right? And it's so sad that they
Exactly.
put so much into their country, into helping us, and then they have this trauma with the frontline workers and military. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
And I've been doing a little bit more research on that, with, the military is trying to work with different programs that are quick, because a lot of these veterans that are coming to their commanding officers, their leaders, and saying, look, I'm having a problem here. What do I do to solve this? The leaders are now getting more involved, and being encouraged to promote this wellness within their units, of if they see a problem starting to occur, that they get them into some kind of a program. And one of them is a cognitive behavior therapy program that literally is like 7 weeks long, or like 7 days long, excuse me. And the reason why is it's like 3 to 4 weeks of stuff compressed into 1 week, because when you have soldiers that are on active duty, you don't know if you've got them available,
Yeah.
basically either in person or online, before they get deployed or when they're deployed. So you've got to work fast in getting that information into them, and for them to start practicing those skills before they head out, so they can actually use those skills as they start getting overseas. And a lot of our conflicts are overseas, so that's another big thing, is that distance. They lose that connection, so that trauma that they have, or that PTSD that occurs, or that gets triggered, they have no resources. And this is a way for them to have a resource long distance. And that's why I'm more than happy to work with people internationally, because, they don't have the, pick up your local life coach and say, hey, I got a problem. They have to work around schedules, security, all sorts of things. And that's where it's nice, where I can come in and say, okay, well, you know what? Schedule a time to get on a call with me that's convenient for them. And I actually do have a site where I go to that schedules my appointments. And it's called HEAL.me. And it's actually an alternative therapy website for all sorts of alternative therapists to get together to collaborate. But it's also so that people that want to use something outside of the regular area can go to figure out what they need. They can look me up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm one of the only 2 life coaches that work with first responders. So they can look me up under first responders or veterans wellness, and I will pop up.
Well,
And they
you
can schedule
were
a free
an
consultation.
EMT, right?
I still am, actually. I'm a
You are.
construction
Okay, good.
site
I'm trying
medic
to
now.
remember. Yes, our cast covers. Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah. So now that I'm in a different line myself. So I'm now as a construction site medic, where I'm on a construction site for the next 4 years or however long the project is with Amtrak. Um, and I'm finding out that a lot of these construction workers are veterans. So they know what it's like to be in high stress situations, and that's why they go back into these stressful jobs. You know, they've worked construction with the Army Corps of Engineering, in the military overseas, so they know what it's like to work in situations. And the mentality's there. You can see it in their demeanor, the way they walk, what they talk about, how they react to things, how they kind of keep themselves away from everybody. They kind of distance themselves, even as a civilian, because that military training is ingrained in them, and they separate themselves. And so it's easy to kind of pick out who the veterans are, who's not,
Mm-hmm.
just by their demeanor. And so I kind of always keep a mental note of who I've noticed doing that, and keep kind of an extra eye on them to make sure they're okay, make sure to engage and talk to them, and get them familiar with the face that if they have a problem, they can come talk to me. Whether it's, because we have a clinic there, they can come in actually for a wellness check. It's part of their program that they can do as a subcontractor, is come in for a wellness check, mental health
Mm-hmm.
wellness, as well as a physical wellness check. So there's still that confidentiality. They still have to sign that HIPAA form of confidentiality so that, their information stays safe. And it's a new concept for them. They never had a medic on a construction site before. So it's kind of new waters for everybody, but it's going to be a good experience.
Got it. Well, thank you. And what else did you want to share? We still have another 10 minutes left in the show about your work that you're doing. Penelope, remind us one more time how we can reach out to you.
Okay, my website is http://internal-consciousness.ueniweb.com. My phone number is 215-618-5446. My email is emsfitness323
Mm-hmm.
gmail.com. Now, all of those three ways to contact me is also on my social media pages of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, all of those. I also have a group page for internal consciousness and for EMS fitness, because even though we mostly talk about mental health and emotional health with internal consciousness, we also need to have that physical health as well. And that's pretty much what the EMS fitness does. It covers different strategies of, exercises that you can do sitting in a chair. If you don't have a lot of time, you can do a couple of quick, one of those sitting in a chair while you're waiting for a call. Just tidbit information of nutrition, different blurbs about different things that I like to talk about, want to spark some interest. If you ever have a question, post it, and we can always start a discussion about it. I'm always open to those. Back to the holidays, I will be opening up my phone line 24/7. So if people do need to have someone to talk to, they are more than welcome to just talk to me if they're having a stressful day at work. If they need to take 30 minutes from their job to make that call, they're more than welcome to call me. That is not a problem. I work nights, so I'm always up nights. So, and I'm a pretty light sleeper. So if I miss your call, leave me a voicemail, and I will always get back to you.
Beautiful.
So that
And
keeping that communication open is paramount at this time of the year.
got it. And could you share, without using people's names, but just a little bit, some of the clients that you've helped and what you work on to help them overcome what they're facing?
Um, I've helped a veteran out of Tennessee, and I've helped an EMT out of Maine. Both of them were
Mm-hmm.
struggling with triggers that were causing a lot of PTSD in their well, one in their work life and one in his civilian life, trying to integrate back into society for him. And my EMT, because she couldn't function in her job. She actually ended up losing her job because of the triggers and the anxiety,
Mm.
and which tend to spiral people into depression, more anxiety, weight gain, health problems. And it finally took, by the time we got to the trust issue, which is the biggest part, is establishing that rapport to get to the trust issue, to finally open up to find out what that major trauma was, and to actually walk them through step by step
Mm.
as an observer of that trauma that kept triggering them. It puts it into a different perspective as a third person observer versus someone that's reliving that nightmare over and over again, because that's what we're trying to avoid, is that nightmare. And what I do is I walk them through like they're watching a movie, and then actually mentally interacting with their younger self. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find someone that's got a childhood trauma that's triggering a lot of stuff as they're older, but they don't realize it until it actually becomes to where it's debilitating them. So what I do is I walk them through, and a lot of it's just rethinking the trauma and reprocessing it and finding a different solution, because we know the first one obviously didn't work because we're having these triggers. Now we need to find an alternative solution to that. So this is a way for them to get that alternative solution, kind of be their own self's safe place, safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is going to direct them to a safer place. So whenever they're stressed out or they have that trigger, they automatically go to where that childhood safe place is that they picked as an older adult. So they kind of mix the maturity in with that immature child or that immature person, and come up with a better solution, because we know the first solution didn't work. Let's try a different one at that point. When you change the perspective of the end, we all know that there's no fairy tale happily ever after ending, and mom and dad aren't always there. So now we have to basically write our own ending. So we get to choose how we want it to end, and we can have that fairy tale end where we get to be in that safe haven, we get to be away from that abuse, or we get to be away from that trauma that caused all this unhappiness, and start over again, basically mentally, and reshaping your own traumas that have affected your life. You can reshape what's called your generational DNA, because we carry 5 generations of trauma, generational
Wow.
trauma in our bodies through our own
That's amazing.
DNA.
Wow.
People have fears of things that they've never, like, I have a fear of water. I absolutely am terrified of the water, and I've never had a water accident. So that trauma or that fear is from my past, from my generational DNA that's been ingrained there somehow, somewhere along the line. Someone in my family 5 generations ago has had a water trauma that has affected the DNA and changed it. And that fear
Wow.
gets moved forward until you
Yeah.
break that cycle. And it's like an abusive relationship. You come from an abusive home, you have it's that domestic violence is like a cycle. Well, you've got to break that cycle somewhere. And when you break that cycle, even after you've had kids, can actually change their DNA too, because they see it change. They start to change without realizing it. And so does your family members. They start changing because they notice a difference in you. So the change has got to occur somewhere. And it's like that phrase, breaking the cycle. It's like breaking the cycle of alcoholism or drug abuse or domestic violence, or breaking that link. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And with fears, if people know what your fears are, they can prey on that. So what I do is basically help you break those weak links and reinforce them.
Beautiful. Right. Penelope, thank you so much. If someone's interested in working with you, do you offer initial consultation for them?
I do. I offer an initial free 20-minute consultation with them. They can sign up for scheduling through the heal.me app. I have times available. If there's a time in there that they don't see that works for them, they can always email me at emsfitness323@gmail.com or call me, and we can set up a different time that works for them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and looking forward to the next time we get to meet. Thank you so much for being here. And
Oh,
with
thank
Veterans
you. I
Day
enjoyed it.
this week, right?
Yes, Saturday.
I had my 6 and 8-year-old. I had my grandfather was in World War II. So my kid's great
Oh,
grandpa, we did a little project last night with his picture, talking about what he did, 1943 to 45. And it's good to remember those who
nice.
served and
It
what
is.
they've been through, So thank you again for reminding us of that, Penelope. You have a great day, okay?
All right, you too.
Thank you so much. And to all of our
All
listeners, stay
right.
tuned. More of the show's on the way.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.